Tonight on KGW News, a meteor caught on camera streaking across 2 states. Plus,
we just want to get our little guy home.
He's 1 in 250 million. How doctors are fighting to save this baby born with 2 rare conditions. Then,
of course, I find it incredibly concerning.
First, they saw their federal funding slashed under DOGE. Now they've learned how AI helped determine what was worth saving. But first,
somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat. We don't want those people.
President Trump lashes out at the local politician who just gave up his high-profile gig. We are talking about Joe Kent, who just resigned as counterterrorism director. We're glad you're with us tonight. I'm David Mulco. Kent, a longtime Trump supporter who ran for Congress twice in Southwest Washington, writing that he is stepping down because he cannot support the war in Iran. Celine Stevens breaks down his statement and how the president is responding.
I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
This is President Donald Trump's response after Joe Kent released this statement Tuesday morning, resigning as director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Kent was born in Sweet Home, Oregon, and ran for Congress twice in Southwest Washington, losing both times to Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. The statement reading in part that he can't support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby.
But to see a high-profile member of President Trump's security team publicly say that there was no imminent threat from Iran and that Israel kind of coerced the United States into taking this action, I think really undermines the president's effort to get Americans on board with his policy in Iran.
President Trump not thrilled.
I read a statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it.
I think he does feel sort of under pressure with some negative economic trends emerging out of the Iran war.
Public approval for the war in Iran is low, according to political science professor Ben Gaskins. While the president's voter base remains supportive, cracks are forming.
There might be some more high-profile Republicans being willing to speak out against it. So I think, like, for someone like Joe Kent, who has served in war and seen a spouse die in conflict, that there is a real, genuine ideological commitment against these types of actions, these invasions.
But as for how this could impact Kent if he decides to run for Congress again,
I think it will be very challenging for Joe Kent to run again. He will not have the backing of President Trump, presumably.
I can certainly imagine that it will make it harder for him to appeal to conservative Republican voters by being so public and breaking with the president on this key issue.
Well, that's Celine Stevens reporting. We have reached out to Kent multiple times for comment, but have yet to receive a response. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, Marion County Sheriff's deputies shot someone at a home in Salem following what they describe as a hostage situation. State police who are investigating say a person called 911 just before 7 this morning saying they were being held in a house on State Street. When deputies arrived, they had some sort of altercation with a man identified as 39-year-old Juan Carlos Gomez Valles. State police say he was armed with 2 knives. At least 1 deputy fired and hit the suspect, who was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. The deputies involved, both who've been on the job less than a year, we understand, were not hurt. In Beaverton, police are looking for more potential victims of a man accused of abusing minors. That's after a Washington County grand jury indicted 26-year-old Joshua Delago on 19 criminal counts involving 9 victims. Court documents say that from 2019 to as recent as this month, Delago would loiter near Sunset High, provide drugs, including meth and marijuana, to underage female students, and sexually abuse them. Anyone who may have had contact with Delago or information related to this case should contact Beaverton Police. And check out this video that shows just how quickly trees went up in flames in Deschutes County today as a wildfire sparked in Lapine. The good news tonight: the sheriff's office there says firefighters have stopped the Riverview Fire's forward progress at about 11 acres. No homes or structures have been burned, and all evacuation orders have now been lifted. Investigators are still trying to figure out how this sparked, but crews say warm temperatures and the lack of snowpack likely contributed to its spread. Let's switch to a live look over the Rose City on this Tuesday night after another fairly warm day across our region, which raises the question, Matt, of just how long this weather's going to stick around.
All week long, really for the rest of winter, which, is not a very high bar, but the seasons change on Friday. We had a great sunset tonight. This is looking south from our camera at Timberline Lodge, Mount Jefferson, the Three Sisters. There is a lack of snowpack at low elevation for sure, and it's been incredibly warm. So I wouldn't be surprised if those conditions did contribute to that fire down by La Grande. But again, it was a great sunset. We made 63 today, which is above average by 6 degrees. But look, it was 77 degrees in Bend, 76 in Klamath Falls, Lapine between the two. So super warm all over the place. Portland and really the northwest corner, the coolest part because we had the cloud cover while much of the rest of the state did not. There is rain just to our north, but it's pushed farther north. It was down around Astoria this morning. Now it's way up north of Grays Harbor, basically, and over to Seattle. That's our current atmospheric river. It's going to stay up there through tomorrow and through Thursday. So tomorrow, partly cloudy throughout the day, 66. And tomorrow, the first day of the year where our sunrise time is a little bit earlier than our sunset time, meaning more than 12 hours of daylight. David?
Looks like a showstopper of a day. Thanks, Matt. New at 11, a 6-week-old infant diagnosed with 2 rare diseases is fighting for his life, and doctors say his condition is unlike anything they've ever seen. Alma McCarty spoke with them and the baby's father tonight. Alma?
Well, David, this right here is little Jack. He was born on January 26th. He has both Epstein's anomaly and Soto syndrome. On their own, these are rare conditions together, even more so, making his situation a challenging case.
Inside OHSU's pediatric intensive care unit, 6-week-old baby fights to survive.
Love you all day long.
Since Jack Arneson was born, a team of doctors and specialists have been fighting right alongside him.
So the future is not yet written for Jack, but we certainly are working really hard to get him out of the intensive care unit and out of the hospital to go home with his family.
His mom, dad, and 2 siblings hoping that day will come soon.
But it's definitely tough because, it's a little bit of a roller coaster. He's had some days that were pretty tough, and that's especially hard, for my wife, seeing him like that, because that's just your child, and we love him. And
Zach Arneson explains even before the birth of his son, they expected some obstacles.
So we've known for a while, I believe it was at like 24 weeks, that he had this Epstein anomaly, which is this heart condition. The Sotos we actually didn't know until after he was born.
Epstein's anomaly, a congenital heart defect, and Soto syndrome, a rare genetic disorder. Dr. Laura Miller-Smith is the division chief of pediatric critical care medicine.
While they may be related, we don't know of any other child who's been identified as having the combination of these 2 diagnoses. Sometimes the management of one gets in the way of the management of the other.
She says they've assembled a large team of experts to find the best ways to care for him.
We do worry that he may need prolonged and additional interventions. Jack has already had to have 1 cardiac surgery. And it's not clear that he's going to be able to get out of the hospital this time without needing another cardiac surgery.
Zach says the family is taking things one day at a time.
It's tough, but you just have to kind of just stay optimistic and, put the trust in the doctors, because they're working really hard for him, and, we feel good about that.
Now, to help with some of the expenses and to relieve financial pressure so the family can focus on Jack's survival and healing, Zach's sister has organized a fundraiser. So far, they've got more than $24,000 in donations. David, back to you.
Yeah, perhaps a way we can all show some support for that family. Wow. Thanks, Alma. All right, let's take a live look at the Interstate Bridge now, where we learned today just how much a replacement is going to cost. And this will not surprise anyone. It's gone up significantly since discussions began. So the updated official cost, drum roll, is more than $14 billion, with the new completion date pushed back now a decade to 2045. Compare that to an initial estimate of just $3.4 billion in 2013, or the updated projection $6 billion in 2023. But leaders said today a replacement has to happen amidst growing safety concerns and warn delaying any longer will only allow costs to rise further.
It's outdated, it's vulnerable to earthquakes, and it was built on timber pilings down in the sand. We like to say it's like pretzels and chocolate pudding.
Now that we have the green light to begin the next stages of the bridge, there's no time to waste.
Pretzels and pudding, huh? The plan is to replace both spans of the bridge, rework some interchanges, add some bridges to access Hayden Island, and extend light rail into Vancouver. Right now, construction is set to begin in 2028. It was a late night on Capitol Hill with senators debating the future of a new voter ID law, though it's known as the SAVE Act faces a bit of an uphill battle. The bill would require prospective voters to use a photo ID that proves citizenship, like a passport or enhanced driver's license. Republicans argue that while voter fraud is rare, the bill would strengthen trust in elections. Democrats say these documents are often expensive or hard to come by, effectively blocking low-income voters from casting a ballot. Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley has come out strongly against the bill, worried it could also be amended to ban most mail-in voting. That's something President Trump has been pushing for.
This bill is not about stopping non-citizens from voting. It's about stopping citizens from voting and doing so to rig the next election.
Well, the bill passed the House last week, but will struggle to get the 60 votes it needs to clear the Senate.
If people can't be quiet and have to ask people to be removed.
Bit of tension during a Portland City Council hearing tonight as leaders considered banning law enforcement from wearing face coverings. But opponents are mad the ordinance doesn't actually apply to federal officers like immigration agents. That's because city councilors don't appear to have the authority to do that. Instead, they hope their ordinance, which also lays out standards for Portland police to wear identification, will help people tell the difference between local and federal authorities. There was no vote tonight. And keep in mind, both Oregon and Washington state lawmakers have already approved their own legislation that does prevent ICE officers from wearing masks.